Hey, what's up you guys? Ben here. Today I'll be doing an analysis of Breitling Chronomat B01 and what I see coming from the brand as Georges Kern continues his leadership with Breitling. And to be honest with you, I've never really been a big fan of Breitling until recently. Recently they've been releasing some really nice stuff and I've been converted into a fan. And in a way, I feel like Breitling's release of the Chronomat in 2020 was a big turning point in the brand's trajectory. Prior to Georges Kern's ascension into his CEO position, Breitling was really adhering to the gaudy, blingy watch trends of the 2000s and the early 2010s. And it wasn't really doing brand too many favors. And also, not to mention, they were releasing dumping a lot of stock in the aftermarket, and that was hurting the brand's reputation and the value of their pieces in the aftermarket. And now, I feel like Breitling has a much more firm grip on their identity. The new watches that they're releasing now are distinctly Breitling, meaning that they have Breitling's masculine DNA by respecting their heritage. But at the same time, they're more refined and elegant looking, which allures to a greater market. The Breitling Chronomat B01 is a great example of this, as it looks distinctly modern, but it also honors its predecessors that have come before. It's large, but tastefully so. So let's talk about the watch's specs. The Chronomat B01, as the name suggests, carries the Breitling's 01 in-house caliber. The B01 movement was introduced in 2009, and it is widely regarded as one of the best chronograph movements in the entire industry. The B01 has a hacking mechanism as well as a quick set date. It pivots on 47 joules, and it's made up of 346 components. And it operates at 4 Hz with an approximate 3 days of power reserve. The watch, of course, has a chronograph complication, which of course allows for measuring and recording of time intervals. The top right subdial allows for tracking time in 30-minute intervals, and the middle subdial allows for tracking time in 12-hour intervals. And finally, the top left subdial is essentially the second hand for tracking time in 60-second increments. The watch also has a bezel, which adds another layer to Chronomat's time tracking ability. In terms of the tactile feeling of the bezel, it's pretty decent, but the bezel's polished surfaces make it a little bit difficult for you to be able to get a good grip. And here, have a listen to the bezel action. The watch is 200 meters water resistant, so as long as you don't accidentally press a chronograph pusher underwater, the watch should be good to go for casual diving and maybe a little bit more. But if you want my advice, I wouldn't risk diving underwater with a chronograph because accidents do happen. And if you flood the watch with water, that'll be one of the most expensive service bills that you'll ever have to take care of. One of the most distinguishable features of this Breitling is its rouleau bracelet, or commonly referred to as the bullet bracelet. It tapers down as it goes down to the clasp for a more streamlined wearing experience. The bracelet is satin finish with 2 lines of polished surfaces every other link, and it has beveling on the side for a more complex finish. The bracelet is connected by pins, but before you raise your pitchforks and say that this was a cost-cutting measure, they do have the system with this extra pin that helps the bracelet be more secure. Also, pins do help the bracelet be more flexible than it otherwise could be with a screw, and it also helps reduce the weight of this watch, which is already a behemoth. I would say from a finishing point of view, the bracelet and the case are solid for the price tier. When you have the watch on hand, you can clearly tell that the watch is a level above brands like Tudor, which it should be for the price. And now let's move on to comfort of the bracelet. It's pretty comfortable if you can get the precise fit. There's unfortunately no easy link system in place, nor does the watch have any half links, so the odds of you getting a perfect fit are not in your favor. For me personally, the watch fits me great when I put it on initially. But as my wrist swells throughout the day, the bracelet begins to feel a little too tight, leading to a slight discomfort. This aspect of the Chronomat is probably the biggest con that I have, not just for the bracelet, but for the entire watch. I do want to point out that Breitling now sells rubber straps for Chronomats on their site, so if you're interested in a Chronomat but can't get a precise fit with your bracelet, I'd recommend checking out their rubber strap option. To move on to dimensions, this Chronomat on paper has a diameter of 42mm, but its actual diameter as measured with my digital caliper comes out to be closer to 43mm, and it certainly does wear closer to 43 than it does 42. The thickness of this watch is 15.1mm, which is certainly thick,
Yeah, boy.
but its girth doesn't feel overly domineering on the wrist. That I do think is in part due to the illusion provided by the case being divided into 3 separate sections: the bezel, mid case, and lower case. The Chronomat's lug-to-lug length is 50.5mm, and since the bracelet droops straight down, it gives for an easier fit across more wrist sizes. I'd recommend this watch down to a wrist size of 6¼ inches or above. That is about 16 centimeters with the metric system, and for reference, my wrist size is 7.1 inches, which is approximately 18 centimeters. And yes, this is a large watch, no question about it. And because of its size, you probably won't feel comfortable wearing it to situations with higher level of formality. I can see this watch pairing well with any casual and quite possibly business casual attires, but for anything involving a suit and a tie or above, I would definitely choose a different option. In conclusion, the Chronomat is large and masculine without crossing the line into the territory of gaudiness. The watch has a highly acclaimed movement to power its timekeeping, and it has additional functionalities such as its higher than usual water resistance for a chronograph and the rotatable bezel. All of these to give the users as many options for function as possible. It's a fantastic choice for anyone with a larger wrist or someone who wants to add a larger piece to their collection. It feels heavy on the wrist and it will definitely stand out. If that's the sort of watch you enjoy or are after, the Chronomat would definitely be a perfect option. But the Chronomat isn't without any faults though. Its bracelet could be improved. It's a beautifully finished bracelet, yes, but there should be some sort of half-link system to allow the user to fine-tune the fit a little bit more for a more comfortable wearing experience. And the bezel's grip could also be improved to allow for a more user-friendly experience. They could do this by giving the bezel a satinated finish for an easier grip, or perhaps giving it sharper edges to allow for a better grip. But all in one, the Chronomat is one solid watch. Anyways, that'll be for today. Thank you guys for making it to the end. And if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of Breitling's new leadership and their new trajectory as a brand? And what do you guys think of Chronomat? I'd love to know. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.